Welcome back, Athlete Builder Podcast. I'm Jim Beebe. We have Lucas Lorian, my teammate, running the show. We're in the library today. We're very lucky to have Arron Miller. He's the head strength and conditioning coach, Northridge High School, up northwest of Fort Wayne's 4A school. A little background on Arron: played football at Manchester. That's where Lucas also played. Didn't play at the same time, but had some overlap. Got his master's from Ball State, so another Ball State person on the show. I had no idea. I think this out of like 25, 30 shows, this is maybe our 10th or 12th person with Ball State ties. Also spent some time at the Citadel, which is going to be really interesting to talk about, a military institute. Was working at Manchester, right, where Lucas met him. So you're a strength coach there, and then Lucas is playing for you guys. Now he's running the Northridge High School strength and conditioning program. Married? I didn't hear her name, though, offline. So married, I don't think any kids yet either, right?
Nope.
So we're going to just get into a few things right off the bat. I always ask, hey, right away, if anyone knows Lucas, give us something that's no one else is going to know that Lucas probably doesn't want people hearing. You got anything good on any dirt on Lucas to start off the show?
No dirt necessarily, but man, there were times where Lucas was not the most coachable, but he was very talented at what he did. But no, Lucas was a kid that was a great athlete, a great football player. But man, he had his moments, man. And there was one specific where he did not want to come in and train that one day. And I remember him mimicking. I was trying to demonstrate a movement. I'm like, this is what it should look like. And it changed gears, right? He didn't necessarily want to come in and train that morning or the afternoon. I think it was a morning session. I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody kicked his dog or what. But he came in, and as soon as I had him demonstrate it, it just kind of changed for him. You know, that was like, all right, I get to perform something. I get to show something. I remember that one specific time. But other than that, Lucas, he was good. He's a great great guy, great kid, great coach. So no, nothing too embarrassing.
Tell me more about this. I can't remember.
Oh man, it was a training session. And Lucas, you got to remember, he was our most mobile, agile, flexible, strongest, like pound for pound kid on this program. Okay. So he could power clean well, he could squat well, he could bench well. He was in shape. The gym was a part of him. And so it made my job a lot easier, right? So him coming in and doing those things. So they definitely trained outside, training hours and stuff that we're implementing there, which was fine. I always pushed more of that too. So when it came into that morning, I had to go back. I had to regress some things because everybody's not up to date, right? And that's okay. That's why I'm there. It's my job. So there were certain things that he didn't necessarily want to do. And he's just like, it was almost like a look like, am I wasting my time or am I really needed to do this? So that's kind of how it went. And I still remember those white and black Metcons he had on that day because you had these Metcons that he rocked. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, those Metcons are kind of nice. I might give me a pair of those, right? But,
I remember those.
Yeah, but he see, I remember that. So I know it's for a fact that it happened. Okay, so you might not remember it, but I definitely remember it. So, but no, it changed. Like whenever that was a rule, that was the thing I picked up. There's somebody that seems body language. Your body language says a million things about you before you say one word. But if you delegate them something, you give them something to do, it can kind of change things for them. And as soon as he got to show some things, it was better for Lucas in that time. So, yeah. Yep.
That's a good coach right there.
I remember that one. So, or ask them the question that they don't want to, answer. So, but other than that, that was my story I remember of Lucas. And other than that, he was just phenomenal in the weight room and on the field.
Mm-hmm. I remember a whole bunch of stories about Lucas, my man.
You want to share some?
He interned for me before he started interning for at the college level, and he was still a student athlete. So then he would train at the gym all the time. And you're right, man. Fast, powerful, strong. The same year he competed in Olympic lifting and powerlifting, won at college nationals and with the American Open at the Arnold, right? So legit athlete. every once in a while, I give some of our athletes some mental toughness work. A lot of times it's carries, so they're doing a 400-meter carry, and I think it's like 50, 55-pound kettlebells. I don't know if it's over his head or in the front rack or maybe farmer's carry, but I got these 40-year-old moms beating them. And I'm like, bro, and he's putting the bell down, he's shaking his head and walking around and resting forever, not wanting to do it. And then the moms just pass him right by, doing their weight. And I'm like, Lucas, you're a college athlete. They're beating you. He's, I don't care. This is stupid. I don't want to do this. To his credit, always finish, right? And he'll tell you about the Kalsu lesson, a number of other ones where it's all come full circle in that, like you said, sometimes not overly coachable. Mm-hmm. And then there's like this epiphany happening over those stints where he's interning as a GA with those college teams and came back. It's like, Paul getting knocked off the horse. Right.
Yeah.
And so he's a whole new dude, completely coachable, wanting to soak up more knowledge. And then the humility and the resilience kicked in. Mm-hmm. So now those are big bedrocks. And one of the reasons I want him on the show is because he's always humble and looking for more work and looking to get smarter and, overly coachable now. So it's completely full circle. So really, it's been good. Mm-hmm. One of the questions I had right off the bat, though, is if you're coaching in college, which is one kind of lifestyle, and then there's coaching in the pros, right? And then college is different. There's Ohio State, and there's Ball State, and then there's Manchester, right? Yeah. And now you're coaching in high school, and there's Carmel High School, and then there's the little 1As out in the cornfields, all great, right? Mm-hmm. So you went from college to high school now, right? Yep. And so my first question is, what is your why and why you're doing what you're doing in the strength and conditioning world, specifically with high school athletes now?
Yeah. So this all started with football. And I learned very quickly that if I wanted to play, that I had to be in the weight room. Mm-hmm. And when you're new and you're novice, you don't know what it is. You don't know what it's like. The first time you train, you're sore. You don't necessarily know if you're meshing well with the weight room or with the people or the coaches. And you think at one point, you don't think your coaches are paying attention to you at all. Okay. Just because they didn't say anything doesn't mean they're not seeing what you're doing. And so that it kind of first started off kind of shaky. And then I remember when I first, invested in the weight room and I was planning on playing basketball, doing all these things. And I look back on it. To stick in and to being a multi-sport athlete was probably more beneficial, but I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't take the other route. And that was invest in the weight room and play in one sport. And my coach would say, invest your time, be a multi-sport athlete. It's going to make you more athletic. Well, I didn't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be in the weight room because I wanted to play and I wanted to start and I wanted to do these things. And so as soon as I took the investment, if you don't play, if you don't train, you're not playing. And what they're trying to tell me is this weight room is preparing your body for the beating it's about to take. But I'll never forget the time where I started making strides in the weight room. And then here comes the communication. It's like it's almost like we've been waiting, And so when you get that, I can still kind of remember that feeling. It was the feeling that it gives you. And throughout life, you kind of search for those similar feelings. Because you want that back. It's like that dopamine, right? Mm-hmm. So when that happened, I was like, man, this is what that feels like. When you crush a power clean and you first bench press 225 pounds, you power clean 225 pounds, there's something that changes. Like the world moves, it shifts. So that's where it all started, and I was just like, I am like passionate about this. And so that's kind of where it started. And then we go to Manchester, go to college. The weight room took care of me. I could tell the difference in my game and my speed and my, power, everything that they tell you it takes care of, it does. And we utilized the BFS program there, bigger, faster, stronger. Okay. It was so simple. We didn't know what we didn't know. I'm like, this is it. This is the Mecca. Right. But you go to college and you learn and you have a strength coach. And at that time, like Lucas, I was an assistant coach and the strength coach. And I had one of those very similar, Coach Stillman, who's an AD now at a high school in Ohio. He was phenomenal for us. And we had other coaches that would invest in it too, because football made the investments. And now programs are even more so now today. They're changing their way. So before I go down too much of a rabbit hole, I go to Manchester. We're getting ready to play a game. And Coach Markham, our offensive coordinator, puts on a video. And it was mindset going into off-season work. Yeah, I think it was either a game or an off-season workout we're getting ready to start. And he talked about how important, training is and being up on time, because at Manchester, it's almost like it's voluntary. Okay, it's like it's hard to get kids in that weight room, and as a whole. And that's why today they still need a full-time person, and we're still not there yet. And so I'm listening to this video on YouTube, and I'm like, what is this guy? Like, this show up a strength coach. I'm like, what the hell's a strength coach? I'm like, we have one, but he's a coach. And he's the director of strength and conditioning. His name's Arron Miller. And I was like, all right, okay, wait, I'm in the weight room. I'm a weight room guy. And he's like, he stopped it and he goes, does anybody know who this guy is? And I was like, well, flash the name. I already forgot the name. He's like, his name's Arron Miller, and he played for me here at Manchester. Boom. That was it. I'm like, he went to Manchester and he's the head strength coach at Michigan, or I'm pretty sure he was the director at the time. I'm like, if he can do that and he went here, I know I can do that. And then that was the next stride. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to do. That was like, and then the investments came and the coaches and the people, and you don't see yourself doing anything else, but the gratification, the why. Okay. Long story here. The why is because the feeling that I got when I first made the investment. And that's the feeling I want to try and give back to athletes. It's to invest in them in, more things and sets and reps. It's the gratification. It's the words of inspiration. It's the emotional display, like placement that you get within training and how much it impacts you, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, whichever. And that was like, man, I'm so passionate about this field. I'm so thankful that they're paying people to do this. I'm like, this is, I don't know what I would do. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do after college? So that's right. It went. I was like, this is what I want to do. But I knew it wasn't going to be that easy. And so the rest is history. I took a coaching job out in Kansas after I graduated. And then, boom, it took off. I had to be an assistant coach, but I was a part of the weight room. And that was one thing it was like, if I do this and I'm take this job in Kansas, I want to be in the weight room. And then the rest was history. And it was restricted earnings. I mean, I think I was making peanuts, man. I mean, it was like $10,000. I remember seeing my bank account, no joke, it was $230 a month. And we started off making nothing a lot of times, but I didn't care. We had a free house, a GA house. You had a house and your 3 square meals, and that was it. People were like, you're crazy. And I'm like, you don't understand, so yeah. So that's why, that's my why, is to give back and to let them know, like, what the gratification you get from this. That's really the why.
You started that with, I'm doing this, I'm seeing the results, and then you hit these numbers, and there could be any benchmark, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a pull-up, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, the whole world opened up. The sky was clear. I heard birds. Food tasted differently. Colors were more vibrant. So that confidence was built that, hey, I am now more capable physically and mentally because I've been through this forging. Mm-hmm. And then that translates to the field, right? Because hey, I'm one of those 225 guys. I'm not getting pushed around anymore. I'm not getting. Right. I'm going to fuck some people up.
Yeah,
right? I'm this new guy now, right? Uh-huh. Then you also said, though, what I want to say is that confidence from those reps is huge. Mm-hmm. And people that might be running with the 3s or the 2s and they want to move up. Well, that's a piece where, hey, I put in this work. I'm now more confident on the field, right? Mm-hmm. I put enough swings on the driving range. I'm now feeling better with my par 3s, right? So I'm on the course. And you put in this work, now they go and play better because they're more physical and more capable. But now they have that mindset, hey, I can handle more. So then they take a little more risk. They push a little more. They hit that hole a little bit harder. And then they get some better results. And then it just feeds that entire loop. And you're like, oh, shit, man, 225 clean. What happens when I start hitting 255, right? Mm-hmm. I'm breaking 2 tackles, not just 1, right? So I love that piece because it is a builder, right? It's also very humbling. You know, you get stapled under the bar, you're humbled, right?
Yeah.
It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You said though about playing one sport and then lifting. I have these parents, and I talk to them all the time, and they'll be working with real young kids or middle school, high school, and they'll have their kids playing multiple sports, which I like multiple sports. I just don't like multiple sports at the same time.
Yes.
They'll be playing travel baseball, and they're in a basketball league. I'm like, you're already playing one sport, right? I don't need them specializing 10 months out of the year at an early age. 9-year-olds playing 10 months of one sport only. So I like them playing multiple sports. And then if you add that weight room, then it's deadly, right? So
Yes.
I say always play 2 throughout the year, but not at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add that weight room. I'm at the point where someone came to me, junior high kid, they're playing 2 sports and they're pretty good. But they said, hey, I'll be in the weight room 3-4 days a week, all through junior high and then high school, doing extra stuff. They'll say, can I play in college? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, really? I go, I can't really guarantee a D3 school, but if you're already pretty good and you're going to outwork everybody in the weight room, can you play at D3? Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
D2, good chance. If you give me 6 years, 2 in junior high and then 4 in high school, can you play D1? I can't guarantee that, but it makes it pretty easy, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making you the fastest, most powerful kid, well, shit, man, it's almost a joke at that point.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, where you said, hey, I only played one sport and lifted. You got any problems with people playing 2 sports in high school, not during the same time, obviously, and then hitting the weight room like football and then wrestling, or football and then track, or tennis and baseball, because different swings but similar,
Mm-hmm.
and then lifting? You see a lot of carryover there positively or what?
100%. And I'd agree with you. It's the problem where they get done with one season and they go right into a club league. And we know, this is kind of beating a dead horse. The number one cause of injury is overuse of injury. And so if you're constantly repeating and we're not regressing or making it right, that comes down to the eye of the coach. If we're not doing, the correct training and the correct programming for this kid, and they're like not getting an off season, that's you're taking a step back. You might be thinking you're taking 2 steps forwards by repeating the same sport. You're taking 2 back. And that's me. That's my opinion. Now they go in something different and they train in another sport. Now they're training in different variables. Now they're making them, what I would like to say is making them harder to kill. They're going to make yourself more, you're making yourself more marketable. I think it was Zach Decant in his book, and he says it's like 80%, it's like 87% or something. By the time they're 18, and if they're continually playing travel ball, that's a burnout in itself. They get to 18, they're like, man, I got to do this another 4 years. They're like, and by that time, you should be knowing what sport you want to play at that time. So then you decide the one sport, and then you go on to college and you get even better at it. But the transfer with two sports, it makes a difference. 2 is great because the third sport is really the weight room. It's strength and conditioning, and that's where they're making the applications where they need to make them. If not, it's like they're just year round. If they play a spring sport, man, the killers are like they get their fall sport, their winter sport, and then they play baseball, and then they got travel baseball, and they're supposed to be in the weight room. And then they got all these showcases they want to go to. They go to these showcases, get smoked, right? And then they come back and they're like, my shin's hurt. Oh my God. Well, I got bad news for you because you're about to train again, right? But now I got to be smart. I could be a jerk and be like, no, you're still running, right? I could easily be a jerk because I'm not going to take their word for it. I take the word from a licensed professional. Okay. But if they're like, hey, I was at a showcase, blah, 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 I'm in travel. I'm like banging my head against the wall. I'm like, when do you get to rest? How do you have time to have a social life? Do you have any homework to do? Right. It's like, so yeah, I totally agree. Like 2 sports is phenomenal. You play 3 sports growing up, and the closer you get, a lot of times when they get to sophomores, they'll pick 2. They might be looking to pick 1, that's what they kind of figure out. But like the travel leagues and doing all these things and outside of sports too, like they're seeing other trainers and they're going to those, and that's good, but like at the same time, I'm like, I really wonder, like, where the benefit is. Where do we need to draw back at? And I got kids in there right now that are training at another facility, which is good. Like if you're training, but like you always wonder, like, am I doing more harm than good having them come in and train and then go out? That's now at that point, that's their decision. That's their decision. And so
there's two economic principles right there. So my background is mostly finance and investments, working at the bank, MBA, Purdue, but then 11 years with strength and conditioning. So there's the return on investment, right? And there's also the law of diminishing returns. So let's say you got a basketball kid, or you played football. So we'll stick with football and we'll make it easy. Let's say they played football and they spent the rest of their time in the weight room to the point where it's all the weight room all the time. And let's say you're like, what position did you play?
I was a linebacker. I was a boundary rush. Yep. So
you got to believe that in college, if you're a 500 squatter, you're pretty darn good with leg drive and power, right? Any much need to be 600, 650, 750 at linebacker? No, right? There's law of diminishing returns, right? There's some stress on your body that you really don't need. So at that level, let's say you're 525 or squatter, you check that box and you go find some other boxes that need to be checked, right? You're good there. You don't need to keep building your squat to 6, 7, and 8. If you're one of those baseball kids and you're playing 10 months out of the year and you can hit off speed pitches, you can hit your change ups and your fastballs, like your hitting's good, right? You do another hours and hours of extra hitting, you're already there. That box should be pretty much checked. Maintain that, but you can't run the bases quickly, or you're out of shape, or you can't hit the ball to the fence because there's no power. Well, there's a box that's completely open, right? So you go and fill those boxes, because the other ones, those are that law of diminishing returns. You don't need to do anymore. You're pretty good there. You're going to go from 93 to 94.5%.
Yep.
But in the weight room, you're going from 30 to 50, no problem, and 50 to 70, no problem, because there's such a huge gap. My daughter was obviously loved her to death. She played soccer year round, and I'm like, nah, not a good idea. And I kept playing, and then she's playing, indoor travel in off season, and she's sitting there in the summer, going into her senior year, and she's in the middle of practice, and there's a break, and she's looking up at the sky. She tells me the story, and she has this big smile on her face, and she has this completely like calm feeling. And practice ends, and she walks right up to the coach. This is before the whole fall semester started, and she goes, "Coach, this is my last day. I've had enough. No more of me ever wants to play soccer again.
Man,
like, I'm good." I go like, "Fuck." There we are. All that playing extra and not doing these other things. She got completely bored with it and burned out. She's like, just running around chasing the ball. I'm tired of it. I don't care if we win everything or not at all. Like, She came home. She's like, "Hey, I'm out." I go, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm done. I don't even want to play. I'm good."
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, fuck. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So
yeah,
that's real, and it's a bummer. But it happens all the time.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, right? Pass it on. I had a couple questions about you playing. What was the "oh shit, I'm in college playing football now" moment? What was that "oh shit" moment, whether in your freshman or sophomore year, and you're like, all right, this is real. This is different than high school. I better pay attention.
It was definitely, man, my sophomore year. I mean, getting to see it on the field, and we, it was playing on a grass field at the time. So you're like, hey, you go to college, you get to play turf, right? You get to play in turf, and then you got to have some more, couple grass fields and all that stuff. I think the one for me where it started was Kalamazoo, and I got some playing time there as a freshman. We're at home. It was the ass chewing that I got when I got back on the sideline. Like, those were different, So it wasn't so much like the game speed. Yeah, it was up tempo. There were guys that were a lot stronger than me, faster than me, and all those things too. I was just a utility guy, So you need a couple reps off, I'm in there playing. That was a smack in the face right there, and it was like, you got your ass chewed. I love that about football. It's a little bit more intense, and And other programs are definitely in similarities with it too. But it was the ass chewing when I got to that sideline. And I was like, this dude, they're for real. Okay. And then number 2 was when we played at Shrine and they got this facility all done and built up. And man, I'll never forget, like, they bring the game ball in, they drop dude off the parachute. Here comes the game ball. I'm like, okay, we had this in high school, right? And we had played a smaller school where I'm from. They did that. They kicked our ass, but that was a different ass kicking, So the guy ended up winning like the Heisman of Division III, and he was a quarterback at Shrine, and he destroyed us. And I'm like, that dude is flipping good. Like, this is college, and we got our ass smacked. Like, that was the tasting. I was like, okay, this is college football. So the first was the ass chewing. The second was getting your ass kicked. So you just choose your poison on that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did your mindset evolve over those years of playing, from going into that first, fall camp to the time that you graduated? Because there's that, I don't know what's going on at first. You kind of feeling your way through, and there's the uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And then you said you got your ass chewed a couple times, and they're like, by the end though, there's got to be some more confidence because you've had some more reps. Talk about how your mindset evolved and how there's been a couple like transitions that were impactful.
Yeah. Weight room is going to be a prereq. You better know that if you want to excel in college, you want to do anything, that's a prereq. And we still didn't have people that were bought in. I don't know how we even had winning season than when we did, but that was a prereq, and it was hard to see other people didn't have the same investments with it too. So that was boom right off the bat. Like, I know I'm a good worker, but I definitely have areas that I lack in that I need to get better at. That was number 1. Number 2 was you better make the investment on film, and what your coach has spent hours on of building these packets, these scouting reports. So that was for me. And then it was the gratification of when you made the play because you did exactly what the coach instructed you to do, and you get that pat on the back, so to speak, when you come back on the sideline. That was a changing point also. Because, in high school, I didn't really take our technique as serious. I just wanted to play. I wanted to play hard and all those things. But when you did exactly what you needed to get done the right way, and you did the ins and outs and utilize your strength physically, and then you use your mental aspect of it too from your scouting reports, you literally have the cheat code right in your hands, man. You got tendencies, you got first down, second down, third down tendencies, what packages they come, what formations they have, all those things are down to the nitty gritty, and it's taken more important. That was the changing point. And it was the gratification of doing exactly. The coach set you up for success. I'm never going to set you up for failure. As soon as you make that investment, the doors continue to open. And that was really it for me. And the confidence was just like, I can do this. That's where the confidence just took off. Like the scouting report's a cheat code, right? I have all my homework in front of me. If you get down pat your mental tendencies and you're checking personnel and who's coming in, who's coming out, it's almost like you're continuing to be what they call a student of the game. And that was just like the confidence was like, this is it. This is where knowledge prevails. Continuously learning, continuously reading, continuously doing your studies, all those things. That's where the confidence took off.
That's exactly what we talk about with Athlete Builder, building your head and building your body. You talk about the weight room and then all the film study. I don't know if you watched the national championship game last night with Purdue and UConn. Having been to Purdue twice from both my degrees, it was painful. But UConn clearly better. But you'll even hear the announcers, hey, when Edey gets the ball, he likes to go to his left. Right. He doesn't want to go right. So there are those tendencies that even the announcers pick up on to give that color to the audience or the watchers. That the entire staff has it all down to a much more granular science. So you talk about that at the D3 level, like you obviously see that when you do that work in the weight room or with the film that you said those doors open. Wouldn't you also see that or say that you saw players, teammates that didn't put in that work and you saw doors close, right? Not getting the playing time, or even worse, maybe they weren't paying attention, so now they're out of position. Then they get smacked, and then there's a big injury they could have avoided, maybe.
Yeah, you definitely are what you repeatedly do. And when that happens, you're like, it makes sense. It was one of those like, well, that's kind of what he does outside of it. And then when we're watching film, he just kind of just goofs off, and that's your result. You are what you repeatedly do.
I'm coaching these kids today, and I gave them the exact same speech or insights. Back with that game last night, the basketball game, everybody was picking UConn. They seemed to be better balanced, had a number of factors. Then you would hear, well, if those guards could have a big game, or if one of those guys could be lights out or whatever, and so they're making their bet that Purdue would win and they're basing it only on an if. Will you elevate and play? And I tell you, it happens every once in a while, but 97% of the time, you perform at your level of training. You default to your level of training. Whether you're in the SEAL program or you're a banker at work, you want to close this sale, but you didn't put in the homework, or you're on the field, you will default to your level of training and your standard. So if your standard is lower than what's needed to win, then it's not going to happen. And I'll bet 100 of those games, knowing that I'll lose 4 or 5, but I got 96% right, because people don't elevate. They don't suck all week long and then kill it on that calculus test or kill it on that baseball field on the weekend, right?
Right.
You are what you repeatedly do, and you know what, when it comes time on that game day, you already know. Mm-hmm. You're gonna walk in there and be like, I got this. What do you got? Or you're gonna walk in there and be like, oh fuck, I hope this shit doesn't happen, because I'm gonna be exposed here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely had that.
Now, I don't get many with military backgrounds, so I'm always very, very thankful when anyone's on. I just have a level of respect. And so you spent some time at the Citadel. That's an unusual stop, right? Because those kids are students, those kids are athletes, and then those kids are soldiers.
Yep.
They're marching, they're in formation. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about what life is like there, balancing 3 big components. Like 2's hard. You had a 3rd one in there, and it's like, shit, man.
Yeah.
You only have 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Lights are out now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been in, this is going to be year 10 in the military, in the reserves, and the Air Force, and I love it. I made a great choice, and that set me up for pretty much the rest. It was like, one of the best choices, if not the best choice I'd ever made. And it opened a lot of doors, but that was one specifically. It was the Citadel. And I went on TDY there on temporary duty. And I went there and I got my upgrade training done there. And I met one of my best friends at that base at Joint Charleston Air Force Base in Charleston, South Carolina. And what started this kind of whole ordeal was getting tight with him and utilizing the airman system and the wingman system, if you would. But he was like, you know what, you should come with me and play rugby. So he was a rugby player at Charleston Rugby Club down in Charleston. He just left. He's serving a tour at Osan right now for a year. But he was at the Citadel he was at Charleston at the base for a while. Yeah, we go to practice and there's some dudes on this field, man. And I'm like, this is a different level of game, right? Mm-hmm. It ain't football, Nope. So you're playing some dudes that are grown ass men now. Like, you got young college athletes. These are grown men, okay, that'll get done and go drink beer at a tavern right after the game, beat the hell up, Yeah. So I'm like, this is different. But we practiced on the Citadel. So we went to the field. I'm like, what is this place? And we get on the camp. He's like, you never heard of the Citadel? And I'm like, no. He goes, how are you in the military and don't know anything about the Citadel? Fail. I was like, well, I learned very quickly what it was. And so you go on the campus and you see the big giant ring as soon as you drive on the campus, and it's got the year of the class that they're going to graduate, all the cadets. And you see, the I can't think, the parade deck. It's called the parade deck. Big open field where they march and do other things. Sometimes they'll do like helo drops or helicopter drops, and they'll do all kinds of training, right? It's awesome. Okay, so that was my exposure, was the Citadel. It was from that. Boom, fast forward. I was like, I had just got done with my first year of grad school at Ball State. And I was looking for an internship, and, they pushed for it. Like, hey, get an internship. Well, it was either there or Colorado Springs at Air Force Academy. And they had like, yeah, we'll take you. I'm like, that's it. We're going to take, my sister was 45 minutes from there. It was either there or the Citadel. I was like, well, I know best friend lives like 30 minutes away. Boom. Get an internship there. Now here we go. Back on the campus again, see the giant ring. Now I'm on the campus. Now I get to see what this is about. You got these cadets that are, they have to abide by the military standards when it comes to the run, comes to the sit-ups, it comes to the push-ups. So there you got an O lineman, D lineman that's got to make a time. They have to run.
Yeah.
And so you got your head strength coach, who was Donnell Boucher at the time. He's just like, how the hell am I going to make this work? He had already been there for like 13, 14 years at the time. It took that long. They're like, we have to change. So they changed regulations, policies to the power athlete. And it was the first summer they implemented it. So, we got to be the guinea pigs. You're looking at them, right? Like, all you guys are going to go through and do this training and then be realistic, give it your all. So not only were we doing our training on top, we were doing their training with them, right? So the last thing they want to do, Reveille comes on, Taps goes on. It's from dusk till dawn. They got, strict time, strict limitations. They come in and train. They love to come in that weight room. You know why? Because it ain't on the camp. It's on the campus, but you're really off campus, because you come in that weight room, they're them. They don't have to be the potential Sergeant Millers or, captain or lieutenants, young lieutenants that are about to join the world. Okay, they could come in and be themselves. They come in there and they're like, what up, man? What's up, coach? You chop it up with them. They're eating their stingers, right? They're slamming their Gatorade before they get ready to go in and train. So that part was awesome. And then they go out, they get the exit that door, boom. It's almost like they're in sequence of what, the campus is meant for them to do. So they did everything. We trained primarily football players there in the summer. They got to implement what the power athlete's supposed to do in terms of like their endurance training, their sit-ups, their push-ups, their muscular fitness, everything else was abided by. And you get to meet the gunnies. You got the majors on there on the campus, and they'll run through there and they see how their cadets are doing. And you got the commandant, which is your commander of the whole, of the whole military institution. They'll run through, and you're like, it's almost like I was standing at attention sometimes, because he didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was. And I could rock a beard and stuff like that, but I had to be freshly groomed. And, the assistant or the athletic director would come by and he'd be all shaved up. He's got the military clean cut. So it was awesome, man. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had in strength and conditioning. So what specifically do you want to know? I could go down more in the nitty gritty.
Talk about the culture there, because it's everything. We always say it's your number one asset with your business. It's your number one asset with your team. And they have different teams. They have teams that are trying to win war games, or they're getting ready to, for you, when you're in the military, you could deploy, right? So your culture there is critical. And then you said at Manchester, some people, they don't even want to be in the weight room.
Right.
At Citadel, they craved it. It was an outlet. Talk about some of the cultures the components of cultures that you saw, whether it's at the Citadel or otherwise, that you would see that team elevate because their culture was X. When I saw this component, it made that team better, and here's why.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah. Honor, duty, respect, core values, boom, right off the bat. I still remember on the platforms, and it was continuously talked about. What you feed the soul and the body, the mind, there's going to be your output a lot of times. What you input is going to be your output. And they praised it there. We got to stay ready, so I have to get ready. That's, that was like, this is it. You walk in, you see not only your NFL athletes when you're walking up to the main office, you see the people that are in the military too on the way up there. So you walk in the football facility, honor, duty, respect. First thing you see, you walk in there. The platform, same thing, repeated. It's repeated on leadership, that culture is everything, and it's going to make you or break you. And if this ain't for you, you'll leave the Citadel. If it ain't for you, you're going to leave. And so, that's where I learned that culture is everything. If you get the buy-in, that's one thing. But if you have the culture and the aspect, they came in there, Donnell had it all set up. Him and Mike Morgan had it all set up. Donnell did another master's degree there in leadership, because he knew what he was going to get out of the Citadel because that's what everything is there. It's leadership, accountability, and
That's awesome.
having the trust work of it. So really it was the repetitiveness of hearing it vocally and being on a drill pad at a certain time and being in a weight room on time and being punctual. And those are all good traits. Those are all disciplinary factors. That is what makes the Citadel. And you felt welcomed, you felt accountable because you're not only in the military, at the same time, like you see it. And these are our leaders of tomorrow. And you're like, man, because they praised it and they did it, whether they liked it or not. And then saying for you, you can leave. So
Right.
a lot, that's what I get from culture. And what I say with that, with kids haven't changed. I heard this from another coach. Kids haven't changed. It's our tolerance level that's changed. It's the obedience of things that's changed. Nothing's changed. Kids don't change. It's how we're tolerating them. And that was, I didn't put that quote on here, but that's all my little email, right? These teachers probably read these emails that they get from me. It's not what you praise or you preach, it's how much you tolerate. And
right,
so
your
that's,
standard.
to me, that's your standard, that's your culture.
Right.
So it was, that's, you go to other places, you see it, you either see it or you feel it, so I got both at the Citadel.
We had Mickey Marotti on a few weeks ago.
He's a
right?
dude. Yeah.
He's a dude, right?
Yeah.
And he said for leadership should be seen. You see what people are doing. It should be heard. It comes out of their mouth. And then it should also be felt. So leaders are seen, heard, and felt. And what they say and do. And it's not simply just saying the words. It's, the message and how it's being presented. And then they want to feel it. There's an emotional component with your decision making, right?
Yep.
And, we have 6 core values that we try to instill with our athletes and, with Lucas and me. I was wondering at Northridge with you, do you have your own set core values that, hey guys, this is what we're about? And then the second question is, do you add one or take one away or change things at all, like a little caveat with a new year or a new season? So we're always going to have we're always going to have our main 6, but this year it might be, here's a little nuance that's specific to this year. What's that like with you, with what you're trying to build over at Northridge?
Yeah, so that's phenomenal. So what you're saying, seeing and feeling, right? And then you see them do it, and you feel it. That's what we miss right now. We just revamped our weight room. I'm still waiting for these letters to get on our wall. Like when you walk in, you'll see our performance manuals and you'll see our core values and what we're about and our pillars of performance. Attitude, execution is like the first thing. You walking through those doors, that's one of the core values. You have to have the right attitude. Whatever you got going on during the day, you leave it outside the weight room. So attitude and be willing to execute. Okay. Yep. And then finishing what you're starting. So attitude, execution, and performance. So like you have to have those 3 things. And that to me, that gives you a little bit of demeanor and gives you some confidence when you come in here. But I don't know if we quite feel that, because what I got to do better of is more praising it, right? But also tolerating what I tolerate. I think I tolerate a decent amount, but I ain't trying to be a drill sergeant. But the core values is what your culture is set for. That's your tone. So when they come in there, they know what tone they have to train. It's just like the Citadel. Like they come in and train, like they know exactly what they need to be doing. They do it all the time, but now they get a little more free will. But at the same time, it's repeated in that way because they see it, they feel it, they do it. So the culture, the core values, those are the first 2: attitude, execution, and performance. And those subcategories of performance is everything what you do outside the weight room. You better take care of ourselves to be nutrition, hydration, sleep, and then that's how you perform. That's keeping you less prone to injury because you're taking care of not only your gasoline and your fuel, you're providing the nutrients to your ligaments, bones, tendons, all of those things. You're more susceptible to be injured because you're not getting those nutrients in you. And that's like the last thing, that light bulb, for them, it's like, oh, that's why you can't be eating chicken tenders at Dairy Queen at time. Like what fuel are we doing? I mean, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. You're a kid. I've been there too, but that's performance. Attitude, execute, perform.
What's helpful is that when you have those words, whatever they are, ours are, we start with integrity, and then it guides your decision making. Then discipline is the work, right? Kaizen's a Japanese term out of business school. I'm looking for improvement in every area, a little bit of improvement everywhere, all the time. Then there's teamwork. You can't get there alone. There's a bit of enjoyment's one of the words. You have to have fun with people. And then there's the word sisu, which is a Finnish word. And it simply means when you're at the end of your rope and you're despondent and things suck ass, like you just don't quit. You just don't quit. So what I find then is you don't have to have many rules, regulations. You just, if there's a circumstance or if there's a decision to be made, well, does it match those 6 words? Is it breaking? If it's breaking one of those 6 words, probably can't be doing that. If you really want to be, the winner that you're setting out to be.
Right.
The only one I really struggle with enjoyment, I'm going to sit there and say, drop sets or sprints. A lot of people aren't enjoying that shit, right?
No.
But would you enjoy that piece that comes along with it? Be thankful for the struggle, for it creates perseverance, right? 1 James. If you can enjoy that pain, then you're really going to be able to enjoy playing on Saturdays or playing on Friday nights.
100%.
Right? Yep. So it still comes in there. So if you can come back and you talk about, we really want to have people feel those 3 words: attitude, execution, performance. Well, when someone asks you a question, hey, coach, why do we have to do this? Well, one of our core values is execution. We're trying to win here. Right? There you go. It says it right there on the wall, right? Performance is one of our core values. And then you start praising people. And then if you can recruit some of your own Citadel lieutenants or your captains or your captains of the weight room, and they buy in, because there's going to be guys that buy in, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's some kids that don't, at least at first, till they go through that Lucas epiphany and change, right?
Yeah.
If you can recruit some of those guys and have them also move your message along, now you got this little tribe of apostles that are all about you, right? And then you have them going out and they're speaking, they're evangelizing for the weight room, right? They're evangelizing for winning on Saturdays, right? So you got to just build with one. Now you got a little tribe, and you get that 3rd one, and it's now we're moving, right? So
it has taken a couple years. Like I hate the saying, it takes 3 years to build the culture and get it to where you want it to be.
Sure.
I hate that one. I want it right now. I want it done now immediately. I want to know where my little young lieutenants are running around. And there's one in particular that we had to have a come to Jesus meeting with. I don't ever really bring kids in the office, but I'm like, this is the kid that's going to be our voice of our program, especially just football. We had to sit down with him and another athlete. And I was like, if you change, like if you put another foot forward, there's going to be kids that's going to follow you. And man, they have been crushing it. And then they follow suit. They see the numbers that they're seeing in other classes that they're doing. They're like, there's no way this kid, I was like, I promise you, it's on video. Like he did it, so, and then he's showing up in the class on time. That was the biggest thing. Those things, like you said, the recruitment of kids has got to be it. You know which ones they are because you see the whole room. You see everything in there. You hear everything. You're the strength coach. You're the buffer. You're the guy that's right in the middle. You hear it from parents, coaches, kids, administration, everything. You hear it all. That's why you have to have a strength coach in programs, man. But yeah,
maybe you just got 4 kids. Sorry to interrupt. Lucas tells me not to do that. It's so rude. I'm sorry. You got 4 kids that are leading. Let's say maybe they're wearing green shirts. Kind of the opposite of the quarterback with the red shirt. Hey, these guys are our leaders. You have any question? Hey, freshman, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You do what those green shirts are doing.
Yeah.
Or whatever your school colors are.
Yeah.
You're right. You get someone. Like when you hear that Tom Brady, who's the best ever, he's still at the facility at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on, right? So it kind of just gives you an example. How about no one's. I'm always the guy that figured things out too late. I was never smart earlier on. I'm smarter now, but still dumb, right? So I was never obviously perfect. So talk about a time when you go to the weight room and you're like, man, I love the weight room, but man, not today. Or I don't feel like doing this. Talk about some persevering tactics or habits you'll do. Hey, I just need to check this box and make some things happen because not everybody wants to get up. 6 in the morning. Not everybody wants to go, but not everybody really wants to go to bed either, which is huge. No. I'm full. I don't feel like eating anymore, but I'm 100 grams of protein behind. Talk about some things where you just like, you know what, I sucked here, but here's what I do now so I can still move forward.
Addition by subtraction. There's a pros and cons. Like for every negative, there's a positive somewhere. You just got to find it. And that goes with saying with an attitude or, whatever energy that you're displaying. You have to be willing to take addition by subtraction, whether it's a routine that you have or a habit, and replacing with another. Like, man, I hated, like, it's still hard, to get up. Like, I'll get up around 5. I'll get my work in with 0 hour starts at 7. And I like to allow myself plenty of time to train because I know if I get up early enough, that allows me to get my journal. That allows me to write. And that is like, that is everything. So in other ways, like, this is me dangling my own carrot here, right? And like, you don't get this if you don't do this first. And so I would just get up a little bit later, because I would like, I'd suck it up like it's 5:15 or 5:30, go in and train, get it done. And then I'm rushing. Then I got like a quarter, 10 minutes till the shower change, boom, hit in the weight room, and we're rolling with the first group. So for me, it's like the David Goggins thing, and it's the Jocko Willing. And those helped me a lot too. Those two guys, those two books, what they repeatedly do and they say helps out a lot too. But you are what you repeatedly do. And if you continue to stack the days, and this is like what I love saying, right? And I think it's a strength coach thing to say too. But if you continue to stack those days and you look back and what you had, you'd be like, man, I stacked 30 chips this month. I get in 30 days and I feel great. That's what did it. That's what did it for me. I was like, you might feel like shit when you wake up. You might have stayed up and watched the national championship game, right? Which I fell asleep by. I'm sorry. I know you're a Purdue fan. But those are the things, those are the sacrifices that we talk about as coaches with our kids. Those are the sacrifices yet. So you have to have addition by subtraction. You might not feel like you want to do it, but you got to do it, man. It's very black and white. It really, when you get in the gray area is where you get behind. So if you keep things pretty black and white in your regimen and routine and you're disciplined about things, you're going to have a good life because as the saying goes, do the hard stuff, you're going to have a good life. If you do the easy things, it's going to be rough for you because you're training your mind of like, you're allowing yourself to allow them to make these mistakes. And it's not like I'm perfect, like I got up today, I slept in today. I got up at like 5:20 or something like that. And I was like, this is where I compromised. Okay. And compromising, once you compromise one, it's easier to compromise many. I'll run 3 miles today. I ran 2.5. I ran 2.5 because you know what? I didn't want to train. I didn't want to go in and lift and work out. I felt sorry for myself. So I run 2.5, right? But something was better than nothing. And I didn't take necessarily an L, but I didn't take a step forward. But I did check a box. I got some mental clarity. I ran. I got my blood flow going. I got my journal. I'm good. So when you talk about doing the things and persevering, to me, I didn't necessarily, it was like a neutral movement, and I'll take that over nothing. And there's coaches out there that won't admit that, man. They will not admit that, but that is reality. You are a human being at the end of the day. But like I said, if you look back and reflect on what you did for the month and you're able to look back in your journal and you like journaling I never was a big journal ever until I met Coach Thalen at Manchester University. And that changed my whole, man, that was a blessing from God right there. That was a blessing from God. But that is where dangling the carrot for your own self, man. Like if you don't do this, you're going to be pissed off. I'm a way worse coach throughout the day because I didn't train myself. I'm a lot more moody, so to speak, if I don't get up and train. I really am, regardless of how much sleep I got.
Well, you're probably going to be just a little disappointed too, and it's going to affect your mood.
Man.
I'm disappointed in myself, So we were just coming back from California. We're on spring break, and my wife and I took my son to Yosemite, and
nice.
It was outstanding. So we're watching the Purdue game on the plane on the ride back. We get in at 11. I'm home at midnight. I fall asleep at 1. And I did plenty of exercising when I was out there. We're hiking every day. 4, 5, 6 miles. So there's plenty of that, right? But I haven't been doing any lifting, nothing at all. And then I'm back in the week, right? So got to start my routine off.
Yep.
And Jen's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, hey, I'm not looking to PR today. I haven't trained in like 8 days, like lifting wise. I'm looking to move, and it's an upper body day. So I'm picking things that are fun, so that I get my momentum going. So I'm back in the habit, hit my 4 or 5 days a week. And I always get drawn back to one of Tony Robbins' points is that athletes or businessmen or whoever, there aren't games every day where you can measure, hey, I'm winning or losing, right? And so one of our mantra with athlete builders, win the day. Most people are happiest on this journey if they're simply making progress. They might still get beat on Friday or Saturday, but if they're making progress, they feel happy about themselves. And to your point, if you're using a journal to track that or anything, or hey, like you said, I put in 30 chips this month. You know you made progress.
Yes.
You're a happier person then. You're a happier person to be around, and you're happier to make another chip the next day. I got 30. I don't want to break the streak.
100%.
Right? So if you can just keep making progress, the wins have to come. So when Lucas and I are talking about this podcast, we're like, what are we going to do? I'm like, hey, well, we're going to launch on this date, and it's not going to be great, but we're going to keep looking for little progresses. So we're coming up on a half a year of putting out one every week, and we're 6 months in making these little tweaks, right?
Love it.
And I'm like, all I got to do is get more and more reps so that in a year from now, it's even better.
Yep.
So we have, not that Arron Miller's not a great guest, we'll have even, better guests or better lighting or better whatever. But all we got to do is keep pushing a little bit each day, and we'll be wherever we need to be. I don't need to be winning the Super Bowl of podcasting right now. We gotta just be doing what we do. We're trying to make a difference. That's it. Make a little bit of progress.
You got a fan.
We've come a long way. I'll say that.
I saw Kenny Bigby on here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him years ago. Yeah, down in Fishers. Yeah, just a side. Yeah, but I saw that. I'm like, I know Kenny. Like I met that guy. Like it was on a Sunday. I was like, oh God, it was somewhere in Geist down there. Yeah. Anyway, long story, but I'm like, I know that guy. And then I'm reading, David Goggins' book, and he talks about Kenny Bigby in his book. I'm like, dude, I think I got this guy's number. Like this guy's famous, But yeah, it was pretty cool. You guys like good guess. Yeah. Awesome.
I think we've gotten very blessed with our guests so far.
Best yet to come, right? Best yet to come.
Hopefully. I call him the prettiest assassin I've ever met.
Dude.
Right?
Dude, still chiseled and shredded. It's insane.
Oh yeah, that dude's gorgeous, and he can sniper you from a half mile away.
Oh yeah, you're dead.
Yeah, dead or hand to hand, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you met him all those years ago, was he still like, Arron Miller, what's up, man? Was he still?
Oh yeah. No, and super enthusiastic and high energy. Now, granted, it may or may not. It was I don't know how to put this, but there were adult beverages in that moment. So we're very, very vocalized, So we were just shooting the bull, and this is I want to be in the military, I want to join the military. And he's telling me all these stories, showing me pictures of the SEALs training and what he did, what he does now in jiu-jitsu. He's got his own, I didn't know it. I think his dad ran his own business or a shop down there at one point. So yeah, it was awesome. So it was to hear his side of the story of things, even though may or may not have had a couple adult beverages and whatnot. But no, it was
his story.
That
was
an eye. Yeah, he's a real one, man. And he's a
authentic,
warrior.
Authentic for sure.
Yes.
And then we never. It's kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street. We never had that many F-bombs on this show until he came on. Right.
Yeah.
But also interspersed with all that, he had plenty of knowledge to drop and hey, think about this, So I'm like, oh, perfect. So authentic, loud in a cool way, but intelligent. So I really appreciate it. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, it's been that was a real fun one.
Yeah,
the longest one, an hour and 58 minutes of just. It's kind of hard to keep up with him sometimes because he was just so intense the whole time.
Yeah.
and it was just going. And he was, anytime he had something to say, he was like, "Well, I'll tell you when." He was just so intense about it. So
I met him in a couple of it was Marcelo is what it was. Marcelo's got a spot down there in Indy too, and that's how it all started. And so I went in there, got my ass kicked a couple times, and I'm like, this might not be for me. Yeah, and then I ended up joining. I ended up enlisting and joining the military. But yeah.
I always ask you guys questions, and you fill out the questionnaire and all before we so help us prepare. And so I'm always curious what you're doing to get smarter. And so any podcasts you listen to or books that you've been reading, or people you follow along, because I always find that really helpful or beneficial. The more I read, the more I realize I'm not that bright and I need to read some more. So
yeah,
anybody you recommend?
100% Matthew Kelly and Rhythm of Life. And I know you said that you're kind of in one right now. I want to say, what was it called again?
Decision Point by Matthew Kelly. Yep.
Decision Point by Matthew Kelly. I have yet to get on that one. Another one too, and this is kind of repetitive, but it Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins, which I feel like a majority of our nation has read, and Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership. And then, man, the one I'm on right now is I just posted about it today, was It Takes What It Takes. I wish that was the first thing I read. Yep, you too, yeah. I mean, those are like the top, so I wish going back on it and starting in coaching, and like, you're very passionate, you like to yell, so you like to do those stupid things when you're young, and then you realize you're like, you don't have to say shit, like you just kind of mellow out, be neutral, like he talks about, and how your perspective on things. It changed me a lot. And Scott Ferguson at Concord, he's the same way. He was like, he praises it. And then, the Godfather, Kevin Vanderbush, was like, that was like his number one. If I remember correctly, he gave me a whole list. If you ask Vanderbush today, like, hey, what do you do on this? He'll send you a whole stinking Google spreadsheet, of like, just to help. Like, he's like, when you talk about pay it forward, he's paying it forward, and he's leaving it better than he found it. And he's giving you all the knowledge he's ever had. That says a lot about this industry, and a lot about strength coaches, but a lot of time high school strength coaches. So yeah, going off a rabbit hole here, that was definitely one of those books listed. Matthew Kelly was a big self-help and direction book, and it teaches you a lot of life lessons. And there's no reason why he's not. There's a reason why he's successful, and how he measures success. And then, yeah, Can't Hurt Me, Jocko, and then, like you said, Trevor, man, great dude.
I saw that tweet today, and I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, It Takes What It Takes. I go, I've been through that book. So I was able to see page 164 was on there. So I just pulled it out, as I'm doing some research before we get on with you. And I'm like, I'm going to see if I have anything noted. And it's, it's highlighted right where you had highlighted yours. And it's Norman Vincent Peale wrote in The Power of Positive Thinking, give every bit of yourself, hold nothing back. Life cannot deny itself to the person who gives life his all. And I wrote always an exclamation point. When you're done and broken, you're only 40% in -DG for David Goggins, because that's what he would say, right?
Yep.
So it dovetails with, that's right out of Can't Hurt Me. And so one of our phrases is, all in or not at all. So if you're going to do something, might as well do it. If you're not going to do something, then don't even bother, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, I think we're having a good conversation today. He's just, a lot younger than me with a lot better looking beard, and we'll just see.
That's not true. Yours is more filling. Come on, man.
I had one of my kids give a Santa Claus reference this last week.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah, yet again. So she's not getting anything for Christmas this year. Fuck her.
Different coaching for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Yeah. Which is the one?
Real quick, so we've talked about this a lot before. Kind of get into a little bit more of the strength and conditioning life as a coach, and not necessarily as a coach, but more like an industry. Talk about the growth of strength and conditioning, if you don't mind, in Indiana, and what Indiana is doing to kind of separate itself. Because we've talked about this, just me and you before, about the change that's happening in this state faster than almost any other state in the country about getting professional strength coaches in high schools and making sure qualified people are handling all the athletes around the state. Can you go into detail about that and how it's happening, what's changing, what's going on with that, and go into detail about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, even when you're coaching athletes in college and you're like, God, like I feel like I just need to train you kind of one-on-one. And you're like, where, like, you don't know how to power clean? No, I'm like, whoa. I was like, I was in a smaller school. I'm like, that's our missing component right there. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how, I don't know where. Then Indiana just took off, and here's all these high school strength and conditioning positions opening up. And the first one that I took was Oak Hill. Down in Converse, in small Converse, Indiana. And here I thought, college was the mecca, but like I think what did it was the people, man. You look at Kevin Vanderbush, they don't call him the Godfather for no reason. He was the pioneer in his time, and he was the pioneer of high school strength conditioning, always will be. And there were, colleges learning from him. And a lot of that, I think, was vulnerability. Some programs probably didn't want to take vulnerability that they're asking a high school guy because, quote unquote, they might not know as much as a college person. That dude has the most knowledge and the most foundational work you could ever ask for. So the awareness was what brought it. And then knowing what it does for your athletes, I think schools continue to buy in it in Indiana because we don't get the best weather a lot of times either. Yeah. I'm like, is that the component? And I'm like, we can train year round. We got an indoor facility, whatever. We'll find ways to train, but we know, I think for some reason, like Indiana just picked up and was like the awareness of what it does for the athlete. And I think a lot of time it really was liability. And I think the schools are like, we have to put these in hands of somebody that is certified. And then the next thing you know, boom, it just kind of they found a loophole. They found a loophole to where they can certify a teacher and or get them a license or somehow emergency teaching permit, whatever it is, to get them in the weight room and to train their athletes. And then, like that's pretty much it, man. Like I wish I knew that answer and to express more, but it's just like you hear it from other states too, and you're like, Indiana, this is why Indiana continues to be better in this aspect because they have certified strength coaches in the weight room. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, how is this not the same for other programs? It's just, I don't know if it's important. I don't know if it's important to them or if they're just kind of like, we don't need one, or we got to fund a budget for it, or we got to like make them an administrator. I don't know. I literally don't. I wish I knew the answer. But what I do know, the time that I spent out in Oklahoma, man, they're good too. Yeah. They're good too, man. And there's some real ones out there also. And I think they definitely express more too, because that's like everything out west, man. Football is very important there.
All right.
I think for a lot of places too, but like, man, it's OU or bust there. There's no NFL program there, so it's like, it's OU or OSU, and everything was like training, weight room, everything, so I saw it out there, and I think that state alone, I mean, coming from experience, is doing pretty good. But like, I mean, you look at how many we got in Indiana, like that's absurd. Like they're popping up all over the place. And then the next thing you know, the NLC, this conference alone, Northern Lakes Conference, they got almost every school packed in with a strength coach, certified, experience, all of it. And I'm like, how did this happen? In small northern Indiana, boom, here comes all these strength coaches. I think a lot of it came with like, oh, you don't have one? You should get you one. And it's like the fad. Yeah, I'm serious. And then like Northridge is one of the last programs to get a strength coach. Okay. It was just, I don't know. Like, I don't know, but I do know that Kevin Vanderbush had a lot to do with it. I wasn't here when it all started, but that name, that person, what the impact he's made for these programs and why his nickname, like he had a lot to do with it. And I really do think that, like, I feel like that question is like a Kevin Vanderbush, like, what happened? Like, how did it explode in Indiana? You know what I'm saying? So where did it, so I'm asking myself the same thing. And I hope I'm answering what you're asking, because I just don't know how it took off so much. And I feel like it took off like the past 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause I think I feel like I've seen a lot of direction towards high school strength and conditioning instead of going like I know especially whenever I was trying to get into strength and conditioning when I first started, it was like, the dream was college and get into a college football program or, working with those kind of athletes. And that was kind of like what you wanted to do, or at least what I wanted to do. And I kind of felt that's how it was for everybody. And then I think slowly people just started gradually going towards the high school realm. And I think a lot of it, now you're seeing a lot of college coaches leave high school, leave college to start working in the high school realm. And I think a lot of it has to do with quite honestly, I just
say it.
Pay.
Yeah.
The colleges just aren't paying was a lot like most of these high schools are paying. Not even close. And I could tell you multiple places that I've seen firsthand where you'd think working at these massive big time schools would be paying more than what they are, and they're not. And it's and the work-life quality,
there it is.
It's just interesting to see high school strength conditioning grow in the way that it is and the speed of what it's growing. And I think there's a lot of things. I think those things have a lot to do with it, and the fact that Indiana is capitalizing on that, and they're like, they're seeing that and they're taking advantage of it.
They're pulling them from other states too. It's a main attraction. It really is. A lot of times it's not the good as pay. So that was, that's the answer. But like for Indiana to be where Indiana's at, like I would love to like I want to know what other states are like too. Like I want to know. You see the clinics through the NHSSEA, but a lot of times, man, they will leave because you're getting burned out at college. You put in hours, you're like, why am I even here? You got kids that'll show up late, and there's no punctuality, and the standards set by that coach, by the sports coach. It's almost like you can't say anything. That's another thing. Like sometimes you don't have full autonomy of your program.
Oh no,
the coaches want you to do something. Hey, we want tsunami bars. What the fuck? Like, yeah, I get it. Like I like my tsunami bars too, but like I'm also the strength coach. I'm the head coach for this sport. Like you said, Jim, like this is still a sport, but it's aiding yours. So we got to work together. And that was another aspect too. And I was like, man, I just can't work with this guy. Like he doesn't get it. That's another thing. You get full autonomy. You're the guy. You're the one guy, but you're the guy. And that was another thing too. You're going to get paid better. You get these breaks. I get breaks. I get a sub. I get I'm like a teacher, right? Like this is insane, So yeah, it's quality of life, pay. Hell, man, you can settle down and you got job security. That was a big one for me. You're going to worry about when it's like you better just take care of what you need to take care of.
Right.
At that college level, a lot of times strength coach goes wherever the coach goes for the main program, which is going to be football. So, if you're at Manchester and the football coach gets fired, strength coach is kind of thinking, oh boy.
Yeah.
We'll see. So if you're in a high school level, then there's some more stability there, obviously. Yep. Then, when you said in the first part of the show that once you hit 225 in those numbers, you get a little more confidence that you're going to be doing better. Well, the same is true if you don't. So if you're an XYZ school and you don't have any strength and conditioning, and you're going up against this school that's got 20 years of it, or like Ben Davis, where Kevin is at, and you see these are 17-year-old men, right? 18-year-old men versus their 17-year-old kids, right? Yeah. They're like, oh man, we're not just going to lose. These kids are going to get wrecked, right?
For sure.
Our boys and our girls are going to get stomped, and they're going to be hurting. ACL tears, back problems, all sorts of Achilles issues. And schools are like, we're not just trying to win. We're just trying to keep our kids alive. We go against some of these other, like
trying to survive, not thrive. Yeah.
I went to St. Ignatius in Cleveland, which is an all-boy Jesuit school, 1,400 kids, all boys. And so I just got this quarterly update. They're doing this expansion, and they're looking for millions of dollars, and they've already got a setup. But those bigger programs, they put in a ton of money, and a ton of money, not just with equipment, with people, right? So like Lucas turning that entire program around. Like 7 kids showed up day one, his first day there. 7 kids.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man, you're wrecked.
Yeah.
So some schools get it, and some schools are starting to get it. What about the trend in the world where we are unhealthier as a state and a country? So then you got some kids that want to play sports, but they're just not even healthy to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a strength coach just to play in the field. You need the strength coach. Hey, man, we need to get you moving and off the phone and off playing video games and what's it called, Minecraft, right? Or Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And shit, I love video games too. I don't have time. How about the importance there just to keep them healthy and moving forward and not nearly as obese, which is becoming a bit of a problem for a lot of younger folks, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But you also work with junior high too, right?
Yeah, I got middle schoolers as well. Yep.
Yeah.
So that, man, let's talk about it, right? And this is where I tell my wife this all the time. A strength coach is the most important job on this planet. She might be, I'm like, I'm serious.
Oh,
like,
man.
look, I'm like, shit, of course, my wife.
She's such a lucky lady to have her husband.
Yeah.
Tell her how awesome he is, right? Man,
I go, but
what a
really
break.
think about it. But really think about it. I go, it's like your other coach. You got one sports coach. You got your parents. You got your brothers or sisters. And then you got this influence that, hey, I'm telling you, you're going to grow in more ways than one in the weight room and training, right? Well, a lot of it, then you're dealing with our obesity rates. And then you're dealing with kids not being active as much. Man, like, that is one of the most conflicted things ever. Here you coming in a situation thinking that we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do some triphasic, and then we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna teach them all these things, and then it's like I can't. They're like I can't do a squat, and I can't lift up my foot, like I can't get off my phone, and that was another thing too. Like like if I catch you with a cell phone, it's a towel push automatic. So like the disciplinaries, there's punishments to it too. Again, kids have not changed. It's the tolerance level. And so when the first thing, it was like, this is what we do. You come in, you wear Northridge gear. If you're wearing something else, you lose your points and you have a towel push. You do it again, you got to wait a towel push. You get another one, you get a phone call home. Okay, like you can't wear a t-shirt to the right t-shirt. That's a problem. So the biggest thing was the tolerance level. And then you're dealing with kids that can't even move. And you're like, okay, I can't have you squat under a bar. Like, I can't have you doing your own individual. Like, I have eyes on the whole class. In that situation, you're a teacher, man. You got to supervise. I got some class like 50 kids, and I'm the only one. So there, I'm like, I have to supervise you, but at the same time, you're like, how do you be nice about talking about nutrition? Like, how are you nice? Like, circling back to this is where it starts. Like high school, maybe younger, middle school, but like the investment is if you continue to come in here, I'm going to make you the best athlete and the strongest minded person. Like there's your selling point. You're a salesman because now you're caring about the kid's well-being. They might get picked on. They might not be confident. You talk a lot about confidence. They're not going to have any. Like you have to be a salesman at that point and you continuously be one. And be an icon for that kid. Like that's where I'm like, a strength coach is so pivotal. It's so important in a young man and woman's life. Like it is like almost like a breaking point. They're gonna have their wins and losses, but what happens when those wins and losses are done? What happens when they're not athletic anymore? Like I still struggle to go in and train too. Like, but I know like if I'm gonna be able to do what I do, I have to also do the part. So that saves me in mind, but what about the kids that are like, they go off in college and be CPAs and they're punching numbers and they're not like passionate or have any influence with it too. So, to answer your original question was, how do we deal with that in America and like with training and obesity? That was your question? Like how, man, you got to be a salesman and you have to continue to care for those kids and you got to be a selling point all the time. Like they're going to go home and they might not have the influence they need, man. Like that's the God's honest truth. Like, and if they don't have that support system that they need, like the strength coach is there to give it, man. And so you want to talk about nutrition, you want to talk about training and the importance of it, but then you want to talk about their well-being. And that's like one thing that they don't talk about. And I'm just like, where are we going wrong? Like that's where I'm like, a strength coach, we need more of them. Like it seriously is so important in so many ways. So it's hard to see. It really is. And, you deal with it in the military too. And then you got all these waivers that are coming out, and then you got all these people that can't complete a fitness performance evaluation. And you're like, what are we doing? It's choices, man. And it's one choice can lead to another. And then they got negative attitudes. You're like, just let me help you, so it comes down to making a decision. I wish I could answer that one straight off the bat too, but like, that's what I see. That's what I feel.
Cool.
Yeah. I like what you're talking about. Like you've got to have to kind of walk the walk yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes a long way. I mean, obviously being the strength coach and being in that position, unlike a lot of other positions and roles out there, part of being a strength coach is doing, being able to walk the walk. You got to do hard things.
Oh yeah.
You've got to be able to be disciplined yourself, because that's what you're preaching all day.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, you're talking about going through things that suck and going through adversity and trying to see them and help them battle through these things and stuff. And whenever they can see that you do it and what you go through and your discipline, and I think that goes a long way when you don't even have to. Kind of goes what you're saying about being a salesman. You don't even have to really say anything if they see that you're doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Respect you get from it too, that they see it.
Yeah, and it's I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll even work out with the class. I still make my rounds and stuff like that, and
you
do my coaching, but I'll hop in on a rack and I'll get getting active with them and being involved with them when it comes to that stuff, seeing that you can do it. Seeing how they live seeing how they live when they see you live in your life and what you preach, and they're matching. I think that goes a long way too. Like the big thing for me is, when it goes to the nutrition thing and dealing with, the unhealthy kids or whatever, is when kids see me, what I bring to school for lunch, stuff like that. They're always like, what do you got there? I'm always, about the bodybuilding show I did, last year. I still eat very similar. I'm still eating, ground turkey, ground beef, sweet potato, vegetables. And, when they see you doing those little things, and when they see you have your water jug, stuff like that, when they see you doing all these little things that you're preaching, and it's not just you saying something to them and saying, hey, go do this. When they see you doing it, I mean, it's just leading by example.
It is
just selling the whole thing over again,
and if they call you out, you better be willing to do it too. And I got called out a couple willingly. I found the will, right? And that's one thing. Well, I might break my shit after this, but being able to perform, being able to still power clean is still practicing, like spot on. Yeah. Once they see it, they're like, all right, he can still do it. And I'm like,
I like to mess.
Yeah, you turn around, you're like, holy shit, I can still do that. You're like, okay, this wasn't so bad as what I thought, but
I try not to do cold power cleans anymore. Yeah, like I can't. Like sometimes a kid, when you're in class and the kid's just like, well, let's see you do it. I'm like, he's a
let me see you do a tempo pull for this. I'm like, all right. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you got to do back squats are absolutely the worst. Whenever they're like, well, let's see you get on the bar, and they've got like 300, and you haven't. For me, I don't know. I can't do 300-pound cleans just cold. Just
no.
One, it hurts.
And
it's just kind of when you still do it and you kind of prove them, and you kind of look at me like, I can still do it. All that stuff, all those interactions, I think go a long way when it comes to, what you preach and what these kids get out of you. Because if you're in this business and you're not taking care of your body, and you're not, if you're a strength coach, you're not training and you're not doing this stuff,
different.
It's to me, I think it's a little weird.
Yep. It's different.
So I don't know. Just to add on.
It's just the first thing that Mickey Marotti said, in that you must be seen.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys have simply just reiterate that point, which is it's critical.
Yeah.
I think also when you said you have to sell them on it, here's how I do that. If I can find, whether it's a CrossFit athlete at the gym or a kid, and I'm like, if I got to sell them on something that they're not even close to wanting, that's a real hard sell.
It is.
If someone's like, hell no, you have no chance. So there's always those percentage of people. But if you can see them and they're like, hey, would you like to build some confidence? Like you said, you get bullied, you want to take care of that. You're not going to go up and say, hey, I see that you're really heavy and out of shape. You're not going to say that, but hey, you want to make some changes, and I'll show you how, and no one else needs to know. If you can dial into their heart and then kind of find their why a little, then you sell them. I will take you hand by hand, and I'll be your teammate, and I will help you get there, and I'll show you, and this will get there. Then you can have a better shot of, quote unquote, selling them, because it's tied into them and their own why and their own identity. So then you got kind of a shot. But we even have, like, one of my own kids here, my wife's youngest. She's like, there's no way I'm going to the gym to train with you guys. There's no way. Okay. If I can get you to maybe a little, then I got a shot. But if it's always a hard no, there's no bothering. If I can get you to a maybe,
think about it.
I think about it. Okay. All right. Well, there's a process for that then, but not, you got to be a little bit there.
Yep.
What do you, I got these rapid fire questions I always like to ask people at the end, because I always want to be, respectful of your time. I know.
Yeah.
Any questions you have for us before we get going, or you want me to just run right through? Because I got, they're pretty fun, I think. And or Lucas, you got anything else you want to get into before we run right through here?
I think we're good.
You're good. So if you're listening, you're by yourself, right? All right, and it's max effort back squat, max effort day, right? What are you listening to?
Definitely a Limp Biscuit, 100%.
All right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Limp Biscuit or some Rob Zombie.
Okay.
Yep.
I like it.
Bucket list adventure you've never done, and you got to either do it by yourself or you can bring your wife.
Jurassic Coast, England with the wife. And then the second would be Tour Italy.
No kidding. Okay.
With the wife. Yep.
Top sports movies, there's always, there's the funny ones like Major League, and then there's the serious ones like, Jim Thorpe All-American. What's your favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans. Denzel.
That is like the most popular of all the ones that we asked.
Yeah.
Everyone says Remember the Titans. Like,
I'm starting to think that people don't actually like that. They just know that. Everybody's seen it, so they remember it. I don't know. Are you sure?
Impact. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Impact, man. I'm telling you. The turmoils, the changes, emotions. It's a true story. He even runs them through Gettysburg. I'm like, come on. I'm like, you get history in it too. You got football history in its own, and then you got the civilization, the civil movements. You got that going on too, and equality, which we still battle in this world today. But like, man, that was an impact, and that was childhood too. That was another thing. Like, that was it. That was the movie, and then Friday Night Lights, and then the rest of those came through. But yeah,
I don't know, man. Everybody wants to be Squints and Wendy Peppercorn. In the Sandlot, like.
Yeah, I love the Sandlot. Yeah.
When he turns his head to his boys and smiles, I was like, "You motherfucker! I can't believe you. You are absolutely king, kid, man. Oh my God, that's genius." And whoever wrote that in the movie, I just love that. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Favorite sport, he wrote football. Then Tim Tebow. How come?
He's a competitor. He's still competing. It's almost like he's competing with himself too, but not many times are you able to talk the talk and walk the walk. And he was a true instinct, warrior. Like, you want to talk about, that was the guy for me. And, I got to watch him in high school, and that was again, a childhood kind of thing. And late, obviously you're young adult and everything, but when he lost to Ole Miss, and he's like, "You'll never see somebody work as hard as me and win as much as, do those things." And he goes and he does it.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that, dude. Now, granted, he had some dudes around him also, and he had great coaching staffs, and then like, down the road you hear all these stories and you see the Netflix documentaries and then everything else that came with it. But like, man, he was a guy. Yeah. And then he led by example. And you want to talk about where hard work can really still get you. Like, there's something that's still unsaid about it, and people just like think smarter, not harder. No, man, there's a lot of things that you do the hard things and you do the hard work with it. Like, he was a perfect display of it. And he still trains hard. It's those are the things you appreciate seeing.
You see him leading by example, and you heard his words, but you know that you just felt those words after that Ole Miss. Like, he could have just read it. No one's going to work harder than I am. I'm going to work my ass off. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
You're not feeling it, and everyone felt it because he was emotionally broken and naked in front of the world.
Yep.
And he just put it out there and then did it, because he wasn't going to say it like that unless he was part of his absolute core identity, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's fantastic.
His emotions are on his sleeve.
You wrote for favorite book. We talked about that, Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly. That's excellent. I'm going to check that out. Favorite superhero?
Batman.
And then villain?
The Joker.
Every Joker or Heath Ledger?
Actually, I'm going to go Jim Carrey and Joker.
Jim Carrey.
Interesting.
He did Jesus.
He was the Riddler in the movie.
Yeah.
Riddler, sorry.
He was the Riddler in the movies.
Damn, it was the Riddler. It's actually the Riddler then. I got to change that from the Joker to the Riddler.
All right. He's excellent.
And it was because Jim Carrey was like his prime. Like, that was so good. And then you got George Clooney in there too. I'm like, dude, freaking George Clooney, like, come on.
Right.
Like, what? Come on. So yeah, the Batman with him and Jim Carrey, like, I love that one. The Joker, I feel like, is another villain favorite. You talking about Tim Tebow, Remember the Titans, like, everybody kind of like, I feel like, come on. Like, he's like one villain that's very, very, like,
authentic.
Exposed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he'll put out, I'm crazy, whatever, but, here I am. And this is my calling. And this is what I'm looking to do. Here I come.
Yeah. With a smile on his face.
Right.
Yeah.
All in and not at all. Like, that dude's legit all in on causing chaos and problems. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Gotham City is mine. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
Favorite way to train or to work on? You wrote power, strength, and auxiliaries. That's a textbook. That's fantastic. That's good. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite lift, though?
Squat.
How come?
One, I know I'm decent at it. I don't know if I'm the greatest at it, but I'm definitely decent at it. And the transfer of it, like, just love putting up big, I'm a little bit of a meathead at times, but like, you put up some weight. And you
don't be embarrassed about saying it. You got to own that shit, man. It's okay. Right. It's all right.
Yeah. And so
you're around friends.
I was still around. I think I did, around 440 this year, 435, somewhere around there. I'm like, that's not too bad. Right. Something squat, and there's just something said about a big squat. You just appreciate it. Now, favorite lift to watch? Power clean.
Really?
Now, that's different. That's artwork right there, man. That's a lot of complex things to do, but yeah, squat, man. When you have somebody with a big squat, you don't want to run into them a lot.
Do you follow Lasha? He's a Georgian from the country. He's a big boy.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Big boy.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And he is the best.
Yeah. I think I know
I'm talking best. He's like, 250 kilo clean and press, right?
That's crazy.
575.
That's scary, dude.
and he's a low 5 snatch, 500 pounds. Yeah. The bar is fast all the time. He comes out of the hole fast. The bar's always perfect,
You appreciate it. Magnificent.
It looks like he could do it for 5 reps.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's something said about a good Olympic movement, like a clean and jerk or a snatch or a power clean.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those are beautiful.
Done right. You said if you had 10 million, you'd be more leadership consultant. Mm-hmm. So would you work with people that are going to lead more kids, or you work with people that lead adults, or you want to lead in the military? You want to lead the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl? That'd be me.
I'm going to take the Trevor approach to this one, and RIP, but like he helped out like anybody, and he was trying to like make his way on things, and he did his rounds, and man, you want to talk about putting in work and effort. Granted, he had a great icon, his father. His father was incredible. You're in that book. You've read the book, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like that was like this is me, and there's a coach on our staff here that does consulting, and I'm like, man, like that's beautiful. Like you're helping them in areas where they need help, and you thrive in that. And I feel like as coaches as a whole, you have to be somewhat of a consultant. Like you're still coaching. You're coaching every day, and that's your job every day. But leadership wise and teaching them the trends and stuff, like Jocko does that. I'm like they're successful because of that. And I just think I'm just passionate about coaching. And I think one of these days that those early mornings aren't appealing to me anymore. Like I feel like that's just a route I would love to take.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did read the book. I have it outlined, and then I'm writing my own and working on it's getting published this year. So I actually reference a few of the spots in here. So there's some quotes in that because I took value out of it. So yeah, it's excellent. You're right. Mm-hmm. Any favorite quote, or I have 1,000 at least, but any favorite quote that stands out to you?
Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I got that one as I think I read that one in middle school. Knowing what it does when enthusiasm. Jim, you talk about confidence. We talk about confidence quite a bit. Confidence can take you a long way. It can take you a long way. And that's sometimes you can be bullshitting, and it can take you a long way.
You can take it for a while.
Yeah, you can take it for a while. But like that's sometimes the identity that I took as a kid. I wasn't a popular kid, like I didn't play all the sports growing up. I played them when I got in high school, or like in fifth grade. And then I was like the confidence, like I was very enthusiastic, but I didn't want to bring kind of like that energy out. And so when I got around the right group of people, you are a third of what you surround yourself with. And I was the enthusiastic one, and I loved it. And that's a quote. And I love that quote because my job, a lot of times they say like, your job is not who you identify yourself as. Dude, I really think that's me. Mm-hmm. What I do as a daily living, like that is Arron Miller every day. My wife is like, no, he's like that at home. Yeah, don't worry. She coaches softball too. So like, no, don't worry. He's like that every time. Yeah. Yep. That's the one.
Once your philosophy is ingrained and believed in your identity, you'll see your philosophy everywhere. And it won't just be in your
so
field.
True.
You'll see it in completely unrelated fields. And you'll be like, you know what? Because I used to work in banking. I could tell you that if I were in really great shape then and had better eating and sleeping, I would be more alert and better at my job. 100%. I'm not trying to be an athlete in power clean or score touchdowns and hit home runs. But when you walk in and you're in shape and you're in that suit and you're not that fat slob in that suit, people are going to take you differently.
Yep.
When they see how you're disciplined and how you approach, I get up and work out, here's what I'm eating, they're going to believe that you have the disciplined approach and you're going to be able to handle their money. When they see that, when you have the energy at 7 o'clock at night, because you're not dragging ass from eating a real heavy meal or having a bunch of drinks. So in a completely unrelated field, you'll see your philosophy everywhere because you can apply it. And if you can do that, you can have these tie-ins and then have a lesson and you can reach somebody. And then if you can reach them, then hopefully you can push, get them to take that next step forward and just that next iteration that everyone's looking for. Man, Arron, great time with you today. Lucas is still undefeated here and very, very blessed. Thank you. We'll be following up with you down the road again, but loved having you on. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. For everyone else that's listening, if you want to get a hold of us, email us info@athlete-builder.com. Keep sending us those questions so we can answer them, and be on the lookout. The Athlete Builder Summit coming up in June on the 22nd. We'll have a half dozen speakers there. And we'll be presenting on different topics. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be the first time we're doing it annually, and it's going to be a big one. So be on the lookout.
And I just want to say thank you guys for having me on here too. This is what we continue to like. This continues to do well. This is what this this whole career field really needs more of, and in accepting. Like, I was vulnerable to some of these questions that you had on here, and you know, man, that made me better. Just being on here for almost 2 hours, like, gave me a plethora of information. And to have Jim be like, you had him, Lucas, like, as a coach, like, he's a walking book, man. So, like, I mean,
I'm
the
taking
knowledge.
notes. I'm taking notes of what you're saying, right? So
I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is phenomenal, and I'm taking these bits and pieces, and this is why this career field is the best to be in. And it is so needed in so many areas. So thank you for having me on here. And I can't wait to hear what more people you get on here as well.
Cool. Thanks, Arron.
Thank you.
Deuces.
Good talking with you, brother.
Sam, thanks for having me, brother. Good to see you.